Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Off the Bench podcast. Today is a very important episode, and I know I say that a lot, that it's a very important episode around here because every episode I view is important, but this one's a little bit special. I don't know exactly where you're watching this from, whether it's the north, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, midwest, wherever you are, wherever you're receiving this video. It might not be getting colder. It might still be hot, or it might have already been cold. But down here in the great city of Tuscaloosa, a chill has sort of entered the air as we transition from October to November. And that can only mean one thing, ladies and gentlemen. It means basketball season is fast approaching and it is nearly upon us, which is just so exciting. You might look to my right and say, hey, Robert, that's not a football. That is basketball. And that is right, because today we are previewing the Southeastern Conference for the 2025-2026 college basketball season. And I love college football, ladies and gentlemen. I really do. And if you doubt that, just look at the 40-plus videos that we've posted on the podcast so far this year on college football. And go check them out. They're all awesome. But college basketball holds a special place in my heart. It's my favorite sport to watch, my favorite sport to talk about, and my favorite sport just in general. I love it so much, and I cannot wait to finally get in to previewing college basketball. So we're going to start with the SEC. So many great storylines in all the conferences this year in college basketball, whether it's St. John's and Dan Hurley battling it out in the Big East. That's going to be fantastic. The Big Ten is loaded this year with Illinois, Michigan State, etc. That conference, not even mention Purdue. Purdue might be the best team in the country. The Big 12, I think, is going to take a huge step forward. Duke might win the national championship this year. So much to discuss all throughout the nation in college basketball, but we have to start with the SEC. Last year, of course, the SEC was historic, not just for the SEC, but they were the best conference in the history of college basketball. They got 14 teams into the NCAA tournament. The record before that for the SEC was 8. That's the most they'd ever gotten. And last year they pulled 14 out of a hat. It was nuts. They absolutely dominated, just utterly destroyed every other conference in the non-conference play before conference play started to ramp up. Auburn won Maui. Alabama nearly won the Players Era tournament. Kentucky beat Duke. They murdered the ACC in the SEC-ACC Challenge. They just drilled through everything. And then they nearly got 3 1 seeds. 2 1 seeds, of course, were Auburn and Florida. Florida ended up winning the SEC, or the SEC tournament. Auburn won the SEC regular season. And then Alabama and Tennessee were 2 seeds. The SEC got 4 teams to the Elite 8, 2 to the Final 4, and then Florida won the national championship. So the Southeastern Conference dominated college basketball last year. It was the story of the year. Either that or Cooper Flagg and Janai Broome battling it out for the Naismiths. But either way you look at it, the SEC just dominated everything. So that's why we're starting with the Southeastern Conference. Do I think that they're going to be as powerful as they were last year? We'll get to that at the end of the video. We'll talk about how many teams I think are going to make the tournament. But we're going to start just with what I think are the biggest storylines, the best teams going into the Southeastern Conference and going into the 2025-2026 college basketball season. So at 1, I will discuss who I think is the best team, and then second best team, third best team, fourth best team, so on and so forth. Again, it's preseason. Nobody last year had Florida winning the national championship. Barely any people had Florida in their top 25. So anything can change. Nothing is stable in college basketball. Anything can happen. So I'm probably going to be completely wrong about this, but this is just what I think going into the season. So, first of all, the team that I think is the number 1 team going into the year is a team that is under, that's their second-year coach. They have a lot of money they put into the program. They did a bunch in the transfer portal. The number 1 team that I have is the Kentucky Wildcats. They're my preseason SEC favorites. They put apparently $22 million into their college basketball program. Mark Pope, as I said, is just in his second year, and he's built arguably a juggernaut with the Wildcats. Kentucky was great last year in Pope's first year. They were 3 seed in the tournament. They went 10-8 in SEC play. They were the 6th seed in the SEC tournament. They lost to Alabama, got throttled by the Crimson Tide in that tournament, but they made it to the Sweet 16 before losing to Tennessee. All this after John Calipari gets fired in Mark Pope's very first year. Basically, last year's team was built almost entirely from the transfer portal with guys like Jackson Robinson, guys like Kobe Brea, Amari Williams, whoever it is, they build it from the transfer portal. And that's exactly what Mark Pope has done again with this team. Gone are the days, at least it seems right now, of the Kentucky Wildcats where they recruit 2 or 3 one-and-done players that just come in and dominate one season of college basketball and then leave to the NBA. I'm talking about Anthony Davis or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Devin Booker, whoever you want to conjure up that did that at Kentucky Wildcats. They're famous for that. That's what they did under Calipari. But Mark Pope has just taken it into a completely different direction. And I know you might be screaming, Robert, Jasper Johnson's a great freshman recruit that they have in that program. He is. But I mean, that's not where Kentucky's star power is coming from. Most of it, and I mean almost all of it, like 99% of it, is all coming from the transfer portal. I mean, Jalen Lau from Pittsburgh, Otega Owe from Oklahoma 2 years ago, Denzel Aberdeen from Florida, Mohamed Diabate from Alabama, Cam Williams from Tulane, Quaintance from Arizona State. So basically, everything that's going to contribute to Kentucky being so elite this year has come from Mark Pope's expertise in the transfer portal, which is just, it's an awesome story. I love it. Last year, Kentucky was 26th in KenPom. They were the 10th most efficient offensive team in the country, 51st defensively, and they were 30th in possessions per 60 minutes, which meant they played pretty fast. They wanted to get shots up in the first 10 seconds of the shot clock. They didn't want to let other teams settle into their half-court defenses, and they scored really, really well. They shot the ball so well. I mean, they had Jackson Robinson and Kobe Brea on the court at the same time. Those are 2 of the best pure shooters in college basketball last year. Of course, Robinson got injured. So did Butler, their point guard. So they had a lot of injuries, which sort of derailed their national title chances, but still a great season. And preseason, the Kentucky Wildcats are 4th in KenPom, and they have top 10, or they're supposed to be top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. So metrics-wise, everybody loves the Wildcats. They should be a great, great team. Here's why I think they're going to be at the top of the SEC. First of all, they just have an elite backcourt. Maybe the best backcourt. Definitely in the SEC, maybe in the country. I know their in-state rivals, Louisville, have stuff to say about that. But Kentucky's backcourt is just so, so good. Of course, it starts with Otega Owe. If you know anything about Kentucky basketball last year, you know Otega Owe just was an absolute dog. He was so clutch. I mean, so clutch. Just look at the 2 times he played against his former team, Oklahoma. Had 2 game winners. He put up 16.2 points per game. He's 6'4". He's so athletic. He can defend really, really well. He gets out in transition. He's just a bell cow. He does everything that Kentucky needs just a dominant wing to do on this basketball team. And he's a senior, so he's experienced. He's seen almost everything you can see in college basketball. And he is one of the preseason favorites to win SEC Player of the Year. He might be the best returning player in this conference. He might be. He had legitimate NBA draft chances last year, or this most recent cycle. He turned him down to come back. Mark Pope got him back. He's going to be there starting 2. He's phenomenal. Nothing else more needs to be said about Otega Owe. And they also have Jalen Lau as their point guard, who I think is an upgrade from who they had last year. Lau's from Pittsburgh, where he averaged 16.8 points per game and 5.5 assists per game. To me, that's the most important number. You're not going to score as much as you scored at Pitt if you're Jalen Lau, because he had the keys to the kingdom with the Panthers, and now he's coming in with the Wildcats, and there's just too many mouths to feed for him to put up those types of numbers. But I look at 5.5 assists. If I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm drooling over that. That is so awesome to have a guy that just initiates the offense, that handles the ball, that gets the ball out to your shooters, because Kentucky has so many good shooters. Oh my goodness. I mean, Aberdeen is fantastic. Cam Williams shot 41.5% from 3 at Tulane. Jasper Johnson, we've already seen what he can do. So having Jalen Lau is just so important because the offense is going to run through him, and it's going to provide stability. It's going to provide just a calm feeling, and I think he's going to be so, so good. He's not as good of a defender as Butler was last year at the point guard, but hopefully he'll stay healthy. Hopefully he'll be a good enough shooter, and if I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm trusting the ball in his hands. And I think that's the most important thing. He's also a junior, so he's got some experience. So I think they're both going to be great. I talked about some of their other guards. I just mentioned their names. Jasper Johnson, 96-star recruit, number 27 in the nation for 24/7 Sports. If you watch their scrimmage against Purdue, you know that Jasper Johnson is just a dog. He's out there. He's athletic. He can shoot. He's one of the best freshman guards in this class, and I think we're going to see a lot of that with him under Mark Pope, because Mark Pope just knows what to do with the exact archetype that Jasper Johnson is. So I think you got a lot to be excited about with him if you're a Kentucky fan. Denzel Aberdeen transferred from Florida, sort of a last-minute transfer in the summer transfer portal window. Aberdeen is just so experienced. He's 6'5". He's a national champion with Florida. I think he's going to defend so well. A lot of the Cam Williams is a sophomore. Johnson's a freshman. Aberdeen and Owe and Lau just bring so much experience to this backcourt. And I think they're going to really help bring these young guys up and make this Kentucky team just devastating to face off against. Not to mention Aberdeen's a good shooter and a good enough scorer. He averaged 7.7 with Florida. Of course, he was behind 3 NBA guards there. But I think he's going to be a great player. I think he's a great add for Mark Pope in this team. I am so high on Cam Williams. Cam Williams, a transfer from Tulane. He's 6'8" and shoots 41.5% from 3. He's going to be insane. I think he's going to be maybe the best addition out of the, well, that's crazy to say with Jalen Lau. I think he's being overlooked right now just because of all the talent that Kentucky has. People aren't really noticing Cam Williams. He averaged 9.3 at Tulane, so it's not like he was out there dominating. But, man, having a 6'8" wing that can go out there and defend and shoot with Jalen Lau initiating things, I think Cam Williams is going to be awesome. I think he's going to be like Jackson Robinson, but better. I don't know. I love Jackson Robinson, so that's hard to say. But I think Cam Williams is just going to be so good. So that rounds up the backcourt, which I think is just going to be elite. And I've already said why. I think no SEC team can match up with Kentucky's backcourt, in my personal opinion. And I look at this front court, and of course, the first thing that you have to notice about this Kentucky front court is Jaden Quaintance. And Quaintance is a dog. He is huge recruit out of high school, went to Arizona State, played good at Arizona State, but didn't pop. I think mostly it's because it's Arizona State. I love Jaden Quaintance. I think he's awesome. I think he's got a nose for the basketball. I think he fights. He averaged almost 8 rebounds a game at Arizona State. He didn't score at an alarming rate. I think he averaged 9.4 points. But the things I've heard about Quaintance is that he just has immaculate character. I've heard that I think he's a man of God. I think I've heard he's a Christian. But he gets up early in the morning and runs all the time. He's super devoted to his studies and everything. I've just heard that he is exactly what you want in the locker room. He's exactly what you want to be like the center of your team. I've just heard he's a great dude, and you want that out of a basketball player for sure. But Quaintance is injured right now. He's recovering from a torn ACL, which could sideline him for most of, if not all, non-conference play. I've heard people say that he's trying to get back for the St. John's game, which is a CBS Sports Classic. If he can do that, that'd be huge. We just don't really know exactly what it is. Mark Pope seems to be optimistic. He said numerous times there's no way he misses the whole season. So if you're a Kentucky fan, at least you're going to get Quaintance for SEC play. You might not get him for a good amount of non-conference play. So where does that leave your team without Quaintance? Because with Quaintance, I think they're a national title contender. Without Quaintance, I look at the team and I say, well, where are you going to get the scoring from in the front court? Well, honestly, I don't think you need it. I think your guards are so good that you're going to be able to score points and play fast and do exactly what you want to do. And without Quaintance, your starting 4 and 5 are going to be Mohamed Diabate, the transfer from Alabama, and Brandon Garrison, who's 6'10" and can rebound the heck out of it. 2 juniors, I look at Mohamed Diabate, and I've seen him in person numerous times playing for the Crimson Tide. And if you've watched Mohamed Diabate and you look at how he plays, you just know that he just gives effort. Every time he's on the court, he's always giving 110%. And is his 110% as good as Jaden Quaintance's 100%? No. He's not the most talented guy. He's not going to go out and put up 20 and 10. That's not who he is. But he has a nose for the basketball. He's tenacious. He wants it more. He gives it his all. He's really fun to watch, frankly, because he's not the biggest guy. He's only 6'7". And even on Alabama's team last year, when they had Cliff Amore and Grant Nelson, 2 near 7-footers, most nights it felt like Mohamed Diabate would out-rebound them just because he plays with so much ferocity. And not to mention he's a great defender. That's just the effort he gives. On the offensive board, on the defensive side of the basketball, he's just annoying from the other team. You just don't want to play a guy like him because he just wants it. And then Brandon Garrison, I just mentioned, he can rebound the basketball, 6'10", talented guy. He was really highly recruited out of high school, and then a high transfer recruit too. So I think these two guys, Diabate and Garrison, with the absence of Quaintance, are going to be able to help distribute to the backcourt, get the ball back to Owe and Lau and Jasper Johnson and Cam Williams and all these scorers that they have. And I don't think that of course they're going to miss a little bit of a beat without Quaintance. That's just out of respect to Quaintance because he's a great basketball player. But even in his absence, I think this team flows really, really well. But we're going to see. And we're going to see really soon because, and I love that this is true, but Kentucky and most of the SEC teams this year have loaded up their non-conference schedule, which is just awesome. It gives us so much great basketball in the months of November and December. And it really helps build up resumes. I think it's awesome. Hats off to all the coaches that are scheduling these big games. But Kentucky plays at Louisville. That game is going to be so awesome. I cannot wait for Kentucky at Louisville. Michigan State, they play in Madison Square Garden. That's going to be another great game. The just angry defense of Michigan State against the high-flying Kentucky Wildcats. They play North Carolina at home. I think that's the SEC ACC Challenge. A couple blue bloods going at it. They got Gonzaga and Nashville. I don't know why they're playing in Nashville, but they are. They got Indiana at home. That could be interesting. And they got St. John's in, what does that say? In Atlanta. They got St. John's in Atlanta, so we're going to see Kentucky and Patino facing off against each other. It's going to be such a fun non-conference schedule. I was hoping all year that in March Madness we would somehow get Kentucky versus St. John's versus Louisville versus Kentucky, and we didn't. But we are getting it in the non-conference schedule in the 2025-2026 regular season. Cannot wait for these basketball games. They're going to be so much fun. So that's what I got for the Kentucky Wildcats, my preseason SEC favorites, who I think are going to do great in non-conference. I think they're going to win the regular season title for the SEC, and I think that they're going to get a 1 seed. I think that this team is that good. So now moving on to the second best team, in my opinion, in the Southeastern Conference. I've got the defending national champions, the Florida Gators. Florida had an unreal season last year. I mean, however good the SEC was, it was fabulous. Best conference in the history of college basketball, and Florida was at the top. They won the SEC tournament. They were second in the regular season behind Auburn. They went 14-4 in a conference that was absolutely loaded. They got a 1 seed. They cruised through the NCAA. Well, that's aggressive. They struggled with UConn. They smacked Maryland. Almost lost. Maybe should have lost to Texas Tech. And then got by Auburn and won by 2 against Houston in the national championship. And Todd Golden got himself a ring for the Florida Gators. Huge season for them. Couldn't have been better. And just all props to the Florida Gators last year. They were 3rd in KenPom. They were top 6 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. They played fast. And this year, KenPom's giving them love again. They're the 2nd highest rated team in the country in KenPom. So good for Florida. So what did they do? They lost a lot of what made last year's team really good. Of course, Walter Clayton was the leader on that team. He's gone. Elijah Martin's gone. Will Richard is gone. Denzel Aberdeen is gone. But you do maintain most of the front court. And you go out and you get Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan from the portal. Why I think Florida's going to be really, really good is pretty much the same reason that everyone thinks they're going to be really, really good. Florida has the best front court in the country. They have the best forwards and centers that I have seen in college basketball this year. I mean, they return everyone from what made the front court so dominant. And why they were so dominant last year is because They had Alex Condon, Ruben Chinyalu, Micah Hamlockton, Thomas Houck. And those guys, if you try to go in the paint, they would just eat you. You could not score in the paint on Florida last year. They were too big, too talented, too long, just too physical and too good near the rim for you to be able to score in the paint consistently. Teams could not do it. And they return all of those guys. The fact that they have those four to rotate through the paint with Houck, Condon, Chinyalu, and Hamlockton, it's going to be awesome for the front court stuff. Good luck rebounding on this team. I mean, my goodness. 7'1", 6'11", 6'11", 6'9" athletes at the basket. You're not going to be able to rebound. You're not going to be able to. So that's why I think Florida's going to be so good. I think they're going to squeeze teams. They're going to crash the boards. A lot of teams in the SEC want to get a lot of offensive rebounds to give their shooters more chances. That's what Alabama does a lot. They drive in the paint, kick out, shoot, crash the boards. Alabama's not going to be able to get those offensive rebounds against Florida. They didn't last year. They're not going to be able to this year. Same with Kentucky. Same with Texas A&M, the style they want to play. I just see Florida squeezing a lot of the teams in this conference. I think they're going to be fantastic. And I transition now to the backcourt, and you've got two studs. You've got Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland. Both these guys are awesome. I mean, Xavier Lee, fantastic basketball player in the Ivy League with the Princeton Tigers. He's a senior, averaged 16.9 points and 5.5 assists with the Princeton Tigers. He has tournament experience. Princeton made the tournament and beat, who they beat? Arizona. They beat Arizona a couple years ago as a 15 seed. So he's got tournament experience. He's a great player. Boogie Fland, huge recruit to Arkansas last year. He was pretty good at times. Arkansas was a lot better with him off the court, to be completely honest, but he's still so talented. They don't give out McDonald's All-Americans to just anybody, and Boogie Fland has one. So he's a really talented guy. But I don't think I trust this Florida backcourt as much as everybody else, and here's the reason. A lot of what made Florida great last year offensively, of course defensively they were so good because they were long and they could play great defense on the perimeter and they wouldn't let you score inside. And they have that length and that tenacity on defense on the perimeter with Lee and Fland. And they're good offensive players in their own right, but I look at Florida's team last year and I see Walter Clayton, Will Richard, and Elijah Martin and Denzel Aberdeen, not as much Aberdeen, but mainly those three. And I see three guys that are just elite shooters, elite perimeter threats, guys that can score from almost any spot on the floor. And I don't think you have a guy like that on this basketball team. I mean, where's the spacing going to come from? A lot of people are saying Thomas Houck is going to start at the 3. And if Houck does start at the 3, that is the starting lineup is Xavier Lee, Boogie Fland, Thomas Houck, Alex Condon, Ruben Chinyalu. Where's the spacing? I don't see it. Obviously, Chinyalu and Condon are going to dominate things down low. And Houck also. And Houck can shoot, but he's not a shooter. You don't look at Thomas Houck and say, wow, don't give him space, man. Thomas Houck can knock down shots. He can, but he's like 30% from 3. Thomas Houck is so good because he's a great defender. He's great in transition. And because he's a good wing scorer. He's not just an elite shooter. That's not the role that he plays. Boogie Fland is another guy. Great with the basketball in his hands. He averaged over 5 assists with Arkansas. But he's not a shooter. That's not his role. And Xavier Lee's the same way. And also Xavier Lee is coming in from the Ivy League to the SEC. That is a huge transition. You got A.J. Brown from the portal, transferred from Ohio, shot 38% from 3. But are you really going to rely on A.J. Brown, a transfer from Ohio, to score from the perimeter and be that guy for your basketball team? If you are, I don't think it's going to work out. So I think defensively, this team is going to be elite. I think it's going to be even better than it was last year, maybe, just because they have more experience working with each other. But I think offensively, they might take a little bit of a step back just because they don't have those threats on the perimeter. I could be proven completely wrong. Boogie Fland could come out and shoot 40% from 3, and I just could be eating my words. I was a Florida hater last year, even though they were phenomenal. This might just be my Florida hatred coming out, but I don't know. I don't see where the space is going to come from. Be that as it may, I still have them as the second highest ranked team in the best conference in college basketball. So I still think they're going to be great. I think they can definitely grab a 2 or 3, or I don't think they're going to get a 1 seed, but I think they're really good. they've got a really, really tough non-conference schedule as well, so we're going to see how good they are right out of the gates. They play Arizona and Las Vegas. That should be fun with Arizona's they're like all their freshman trio going up against Florida's experience in the backcourt or front court rather. They play Florida State and Miami. Should be fun. They should, handle both of those teams. They play in the Rady Childs Invitational with TCU, Providence, and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to be fun this year. They play at Duke. Ooh, that's going to be a fun game. At Duke in Durham for the SEC ACC Challenge. Duke was the only ACC team to win a game against the SEC last year in this challenge when they beat Auburn. So that's just a little statistic for you. And then they play UConn in New York City. I believe that game's in Madison Square Garden. That's going to be a fun one too. UConn against Florida, man. I can't wait. That's a rematch of the second round of the NCAA tournament. Todd Golden versus Dan Hurley. Doesn't get much better than that. So, the great non-conference schedule. Shout out Todd Golden for that. Last year, Florida didn't really play very many difficult teams in the non-conference. This year, that's changed. They're going to try and beef up their resume as much as they can. I love that. I think it's the right thing to do. And good team. Great defensive team. Do I think that they have a chance to go back-to-back? In my opinion, the answer is no. I do not think Florida is going to win the national championship this year. I think they could definitely get to the Elite Eight. I think their defense is that good. But, against UConn, against Texas Tech, and kind of against Houston, their offense got stuffed. And they were losing. They almost should have lost to UConn and Texas Tech. It's just Walter Clayton took those games over. He said, I'm going to take the ball. I'm going to hit wild step-back threes with like 3 guys contesting me. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to win the game. And you don't have that this year. Like, you're telling me Xavier Lee or Boogie Fland is going to just become Walter Clayton Jr.? I don't see that. So, no, I don't think Florida's going to have the national title run that they have this year. They won their last 12 games. They won 12 in a row last year. I don't think they have that in them this year. That's just me. A lot of people think that they're a top 3 team. Not in my book. Not in my brand new notebook, by the way. I got a different notebook for basketball and football, so don't confuse the two. And that's where I got the Gators finishing. So we're going to move on to our number 3 team. Rounding out the top 3 in the SEC, I have a team that I don't think anyone has in their top 3. It's not Alabama. It's not Auburn. It's not Tennessee. It's not Mississippi State or Oklahoma or whomever else. At number 3, in the SEC, I have the Arkansas Razorbacks, led by John Calipari. Arkansas had a really, really up and down season last year. They finished 8-10 in the SEC, which was good for 9th in the conference. And then they lost to Ole Miss in the SEC tournament on just a flamethrower by Sean Padula, my boy Sean P. I was watching that game in the Atlanta airport, and I was just, it was during spring break, and I just see Sean Padula with the headband on, hit a step-back three-pointer for the win, and all the Ole Miss frat dudes were just going nuts. I love Sean Padula. I love to see that. That was epic. I thought I'd just throw that in there. But Arkansas started the year slow. They were very, very slow. They were confused last year at the beginning of the year, and it's definitely to start SEC play. It just looked like they had too many stars on the court. I mean, with Nelly Davis, DJ Wagner, Knox, who else was on that team? Trayvon Brazile, Boogie Fland. They just had a bunch of guys that just all wanted the ball, and they all wanted to score, and they all wanted to be the star. And they didn't have any flow. They didn't have any consistency. They didn't have any stability. And they really struggled. And then they had a huge game. One of the games of the year. They went into Rupp Arena. Calipari returned to Kentucky. And Arkansas just walloped the Wildcats in their own building. A lot of their fans left early. They shot ridiculously well in that game. I mean, Novicic, Wagner, they just played their hearts out and won Arkansas that basketball game. And they sort of played with a lot of passion and energy after that. They won some other games that got them into the season, got them into the tournament, and they landed a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament and got all the way to the Sweet 16. They upset Kansas and Hunter Dickinson, and then they upset the 2 seed Johnnies. One of the best stories from college basketball last year was St. John's revitalization under Coach Pitino. And it came to a screeching halt in the second round against Arkansas and Calipari. And they didn't breeze by, but they beat St. John's. And then they had Texas Tech on the ropes with a chance to make the Elite Eight. And they would have won that game if Darian Williams didn't turn into just an absolute bell cow. And him and Christian Anderson just won that game. That was one of the best games of college basketball the whole year. And Arkansas put the ball in the hands of DJ Wagner at the end. I cannot believe that decision. You have Nelly Davis right there. He scored 30 points that game. He's a March Madness legend. Just waiting to get the ball. And DJ Wagner goes and whatever. I was cheering for Arkansas in that game, and they didn't get the ball to Nelly Davis, who's one of my favorite basketball players ever, and I was mad. But last season is last season. This season is this season. Arkansas was 36th in KenPom last year. They're projected to be 29th this year, which is not very high, but KenPom doesn't really give a lot of love to teams with a lot of freshmen on them, so maybe that's a reason why. They were much better defensively last year than they were offensively. A lot of people think that's going to flip this year with them finding a lot of rhythm on offense and struggling more on defense. But here's what I think about the Arkansas Razorbacks. First of all, I think their backcourt is super fun. Their guards are just going to be a blast this year. I think, as I already said, they lacked a lot of flow last year. A lot of people were playing selfish basketball, and they didn't have consistency within their offense in the backcourt. And I think that's all going to change because Darius Acuff has come into town for Arkansas. He's in Fayetteville, 99 stars on 24/7 Sports. He's number 5 in the nation, recruiting-wise, as a true freshman, behind, of course, Devansta, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, and Nate Ament. So he's going to be a stud. I am all in on Darius Acuff Jr. He's 6'2". He's athletic as heck. He can shoot, he can pass, and he wants the ball in his hands, and he can distribute. I think he's going to add so much flow to this offense. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the SEC. I have him winning Freshman of the Year in the SEC, I think. I just think he's going to be so good. And he's going to work with DJ Wagner. And Wagner, of course, is a veteran. He put up 11.2 points per game last year. Really improved as the season went on. Of course, super high recruit. And hasn't really lived up to all the expectations, but still a really talented player, great scorer. He just needs to give more effort on defense, in my opinion, on DJ Wagner. I just love defensive basketball, so maybe that's just my opinion. They got Malik Thomas, another 5-star freshman who can shoot, he can guard, he's 6'3". Carter Knox is another guy that's just so talented. They just have so much talent on this team, guys. And I think Acuff is going to get those puppies in order. Like Bill Rafferty said, get those puppies organized, and Darius Acuff is going to do that for this team. So I think they're going to be great in that area. I think they're going to shoot well. I don't think they're going to turn the ball over as much. And I just think they're going to be super fun to watch. I think that their front court is not going to be able to score a bunch. They don't have like a dominant scorer over there, and they lose Ivisic, who was their 7-footer. But I think that they're going to be able to be really strong and dominate and be stout up front. They've got Trayvon Brazile, Malik Ewan, and Nick Pringle. All are 6'10" or higher. All can rebound just so well. Ewan averaged 7.6 rebounds at Florida State. Pringle, whether it was South Carolina or Alabama, he always has just been athletic and strong. Cannot shoot, cannot score, but he can rebound. And Trayvon Brazile, of course, he's really big as well. He's athletic. He can guard and rebound well. Similar to Kentucky, I think that this front court is going to be able to sort of bully people up front and get more opportunities for Acuff and Wagner and Malik Thomas to make plays. I think that this team is structured really well together. I think Calipari, he's not the greatest in-game coach, but he knows how to motivate his teams when they're winning a little bit. I haven't even mentioned Carter Knox, 6'6", averaged 8.3 and 3.3 on this team last year. I mean, they're just so talented. I think it's tough to bet against Arkansas. I think that last year we saw flashes of what this team could be under John Calipari. And I just think with Darius Acuff, we're going to get more consistent, elite, high-level play from the Razorbacks. I think they could be like a 3 seed. I think their floor for me is like a 6 seed, but their ceiling is a 2 seed. I think they're that talented. I don't know if they have a chance to win the SEC with Kentucky and Florida, but if they get hot, I mean, if Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff are both going to be as good as I think they are, and they get hot in the SEC tournament, and Wagner comes in and scores, and they're healthy in the front court, I wouldn't want to play Arkansas at any point in this season when they're hot if I was an SEC team. So let's look at their non-conference schedule. Let's look and see who Calipari is scheduled before SEC play starts, because it is another doozy. I love that SEC coaches are doing this. They play on the road at Michigan State, which should be epic. They play Duke in Chicago. That should be fun too. They've got Louisville. So Calipari going up against Louisville. I think that's at home. They play Texas Tech in Dallas, rematch of the Elite Eight. Or not the Elite Eight, Sweet 16. Can't wait for that. And then they play Houston in Newark. So they just have so many good games. I mean, just picture in your head. Arkansas Duke, Arkansas Louisville, Arkansas Texas Tech, Arkansas Houston. Because it's all happening this year. And it's going to be fantastic. I don't know why Arkansas and Houston are both traveling to New Jersey to play a basketball game. But hey, that's better than Arkansas playing Southeastern Louisiana. I'll take it. I will take Kelvin Sampson versus John Calipari. So that's what I got for Arkansas. I think they're going to be fun and really, really good in the SEC this year. So that leads me to my fourth best team in the SEC. And to me, this is sort of up in the air. I think 4 and 5 are close. It just sort of depends on what style of basketball you think is going to work out better. But I got the Tennessee Volunteers at the number 4 spot in the SEC. They were great last year. They went 12-6 in the conference. They made the SEC tournament championship game against Florida, put up a great fight. They beat Auburn to get there, and they fell just short to the Gators, which was unfortunate for Tennessee fans, but they still got a 2 seed. They made it all the way to the Elite Eight. They knocked out Kentucky, and they fell pretty decently well short to the Houston Cougars. I mean, Kelvin Sampson sort of out Tennessee in that basketball game, and I mean, Rick Barnes has failed to lead this Tennessee team to a Final Four, but he's done pretty much everything else you can do as a Tennessee basketball coach. They were 5th in KenPom last year. Being top 5 in KenPom is not an easy thing to do, and they were able to. Most of that is credited to their 3rd in the nation defensive efficiency. They were so good on defense. They're always so good on defense. That's just what Rick Barnes does. And let's see what else. They're 9th in KenPom preseason this year, and they're predicted to be 3rd again in defensive efficiency. And just an interesting stat with Tennessee, they were 349th in the country in possessions per 60 minutes, which basically means they play slow, they play in the mud, they want you to hold on to the ball for a really long time. They don't like to shoot within like the first 20 seconds of the shot clock. They just want to just squeeze you out of basketball games and just defend the heck out of you. That's basically what Tennessee wants to do. They had wins over Florida when they beat Alabama on a buzzer beater. What else did they do? They beat Kentucky twice, I think. I think it was twice they beat Kentucky. No, Kentucky beat them twice. Never mind. They beat them, yeah, but then Tennessee beat them in the tournament. That's right. I'm sorry. My Tennessee memory is not as good as maybe some other teams. But Tennessee's going to be great. So why do I think they're going to be top 4 in the SEC? First of all, and this should be the most obvious reason, they've got Rick Barnes, which if you don't know what Rick Barnes basketball is, it is tenacious. It is ferocious. They just play with disgust. They play with passion. They play with anger. They're selfless. And most of all, Tennessee teams under Rick Barnes are so stubborn. They want to play the way they want to play, and they make you play the way they want to play, which is just grind you out defensively. They take away the three-point line. They bully you in the paint. They foul. They're physical. They're gritty. They've got noses for the ball, and I love that passion that Rick Barnes teams bring. And guess what? They return a lot of the guys that made that team play with the amount of stubbornness that they did last year. They return a lot of those Rick Barnes guys like Cade Phillips, Felix Okpara, JP Estrella. These are guys that they play ugly. They're ferocious. It's what they do. And I think you just always get that consistency with a Tennessee team. They get you to force turnovers. They get you to miss shots. They knock you off your rhythm. And we're definitely going to see that again this year with this Tennessee team. So that's first of all why I think they're going to be so good. And then I look to their scoring. And of course, last year, most of their scoring came from Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler, their point guard and their best wing. And those two guys were great. Lanier, knockdown shooter. And then, of course, Zakai Ziegler had been there for forever. And he just embodied what it meant to be a Rick Barnes basketball player. And now you've got a new one who's going to be controlling things, and a new wing scorer. And that wing scorer is none other than the true freshman, 5-star recruit, number 4 in the nation, Nate Ament. I think Nate Ament is going to be so good. He's literally like a Kevin Durant build. He's 6'10", and he can shoot the heck out of it. He can score so well. He's just a nightmare matchup. I mean, 6'10", he can move like a guard. He can shoot like a guard. He's going to be really hard to stop. He's going to be great on defense too with that wingspan. I think Nate Ament is going to be awesome. I said Darius Acup's going to win Freshman Player of the Year. It's going to be an awesome race between Acup and Nate Ament, in my opinion, to see who wins that crown. It might go to Ament. Ament might contend for SEC Player of the Year. I think he's going to be so good. I think he's going to be Chaz Lanier, but better. Legitimately. I think he's so talented. Are we going to see that right off the bat? No, he might struggle at first. He's young. He's younger than me. So he's going to go out there and he might not score 30 points a game in their first couple biggest games of the year. It might take him a while to find some rhythm in his game and figure out what makes him so great. But he is just so talented. And then the starting point guard that's going to be getting it to him is none other than Crab 5 member Jacoby Gillespie. I love Jacoby Gillespie. True senior. I mean, last year, Maryland had so many studs. If you're not aware of the Crab 5, first of all, shame on you because the Crab 5 was a national treasure. But, I mean, on a team with Rodney Rice, on a team with Derek Queen, Jacoby Gillespie controlled things. I mean, he had the ball in his hands. He averaged 4.8 assists a game for Maryland. He even put up 14.7 points. A lot of times when they needed a bucket, it was Jacoby Gillespie that came up with it. He was 40% from 3 when he was at Maryland. So I think he's a great scorer. I think he's going to do a great job running the offense, getting it to Nate Ament. They run so many good ball screens. And I think that this Tennessee offense is going to flow with them too. They don't even really need to score that many points if they have the 3rd best defensive efficiency in the country, which, again, they might have once more. I trust Tennessee, man. I trust Rick Barnes. I trust Nate Ament. I trust this defense. I think Tennessee's going somewhere. I think they could be a 3-2 seed again. And could this be the year they go to the Final Four? I don't predict it, but I would not be shocked. I'm telling you. This Tennessee team is for real. I think they're being slept on a little bit. Not a lot of people are talking about them. They don't play as rigorous as a non-conference schedule as some of the other teams in this conference, but they do play some good teams. They're in the Players era. They don't play like any Power 4 or Power 5 teams until the Players era tournament, which is late November, so they can really ease into their season. They can get Nate Ament comfortable until they have Players era, and they got a rough draw. They got to play Rutgers and Houston in the first 2 games of the Player era before they play their 3rd game, which of course is against an unknown opponent. And then they play at Syracuse, they play Illinois and Nashville, and they play Louisville. Louisville is playing like everybody. It's awesome. Louisville's non-conference is going to be so much fun. And Tennessee's got them at home this year. They went on the road to Louisville last year and just cruised. They were number 1 in the country for a while because of how good they were in the non-conference, and Louisville was one of those big wins. So we'll see if they can get 2 in a row against the Cards. And I think Tennessee, top 4 team in the SEC, they can contend for the SEC tournament. And national title contenders, maybe not, but definitely Final Four contenders. I think they'll definitely make it to the second weekend. I'm high on Tennessee. And that leads me to round out the top 5, in my opinion, in the SEC. My number 5 team in the Southeastern Conference, the Alabama Crimson Tide, led by Nate Oates. This team is going to be fun to watch, that's for sure. They were 13-5 in conference last year, which finished 3rd in the SEC regular season race, and they won a couple games in the SEC tournament before running into the Florida Gators and getting smacked. And they were 2 seed in March Madness. They struggled in their first game, but they got to the St. Mary's game. They won that one. They smacked BYU, set the NCAA tournament record for most 3-pointers in a game. And then they had to face Cooper Flagg and Duke and Con Kneppel and Kamon Malawach, and they didn't really stand a chance in that game. And that's where the season ended. But it was a great season for Alabama. They were 6th in Ken Palm last year, 4th in offensive efficiency, 28th in defensive, and 1st, again, in adjusted possessions per 30 minutes. Basically, that means Alabama is the inverse of Tennessee. They want to play fast. They want to shoot in the first 5 seconds of the shot clock having gone. They don't want to give teams time to work into their half-court defenses. They just want to play fast. They drive in, kick out, shoot, try and get offensive rebounds, and if they don't, they play aggressive defense and try and turn it around and score again. That's what they're all about. So can they do that again this season? Well, we'll start with their backcourt, their guards. They've got a very, very deep backcourt room. I've heard some people say they have the best backcourt in the country. I don't know if I agree with that, but I mean, they just have some dudes. Of course, LeBaron Philon headlines this team. He was a starter last year. He was a little up and down in terms of his offense and his efficiencies, but great player. He really, really heavily flirted with the NBA draft. He even said that he's not coming back and he's going to the draft. And last second, one of the most shocking NBA draft decisions ever, Philon comes back to Tuscaloosa to join the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's going to be starting point guard. He's going to be hopping into that Mark Sears role, and he's going to have the keys to this team. That's for sure. So do I trust that? I think I trust that he's going to develop a lot. I think Nate Oates knows exactly how to develop guards. We've seen that with so many good players that have gone through his program. And I think Philon's the next. I don't know how good his shooting is going to be. It wasn't all that consistent last year, but again, I think it'll take a step forward. You also got Aiden Holloway, former 5-star recruit, former Auburn Tiger, transferred to the Crimson Tide last year. He's back on the team. He'll be the backup point guard, as he was last year. And then at shooting guard, they got Latrell Wrightsell coming back from injury. Hopefully the Tide can get him to stay healthy. Just a crazy three-point shooter. You do not want to give him any space. Jalil Bethia, former 5-star recruit from Miami, has transferred over to the Crimson Tide. Unfortunately, he's injured. Sort of like a Chris Youngblood situation. They might not get him back until conference play, which is big news because Bethia is a really, really good player. And I think he could really blossom under Nate Oates' system. Just a bad situation last year in Miami for all Miami players. Those that have transferred are now under much better programs. Houston Millett, a lot of people are really high on him. Another great shooter, another veteran who can come in there. He didn't play last year because of injury. This year he could step up and have a big role. So their guards, their backcourt, they can all shoot so well. They're going to be so hard to guard. I think that this team is really similar to the Alabama team we saw 2 years ago that went to the Final Four, who just shot the ball so well. And I think we're going to see stuff very similar to that with these guards. But I get to the front court, and I have a lot more questions. Of course, Aiden Sherrill headlines things, but other than him, you got a lot of question marks. Noah Williamson was awesome as the Patriot League Player of the Year last year. But that's the Patriot League. Now you're in the SEC. He's really slow. He's big and he's talented, but he's slow. And Alabama really wants to play fast, so we don't know how well he's going to fit into things. Taylor Bull-Bowen has looked really, really good, transferred from Florida State, but he's still a little bit of a question mark. We haven't seen him be elite in a conference like the SEC. London Jemison is a great freshman recruit. He was number 38 in the country, high 4-star. Alabama's got a lot of guys that could work out in the front court, but they're not quite proven yet. We don't exactly know what we're going to get from them. Nate Oates loves his blue-collar basketball, which basically means don't care about the results, just go out there and fight and play hard and go after loose balls no matter what. We'll see if Alabama can do that this year. I'm not very confident. I think Alabama's going to be an electric offensive team. I think they're going to score a lot of points, and they're going to play fast. They're going to get out in transition. They're going to be almost impossible to slow down. But then on the other side of the ball, I think their guards are very undersized. I think their front court's very inexperienced. I think that they're going to give up a lot of points. They're going to struggle to string stops together. And I think we're going to see a lot of both teams being in the triple digits of games for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We already saw that in Alabama's preseason game against Florida State. I think Alabama won like 109-103 or something like that. So get ready. If you have seatbelts when you're watching Alabama games, make sure to put them on because it's going to be a wild ride. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I love watching basketball games like that. I love watching Alabama go into Rupp Arena and win like 107-101. I think it's really, really fun to watch Alabama when they are playing high-scoring basketball like this. But when you play against a really good defensive team and they run you off the three-point line and you can't get stops, that's when you lose. That's what happened with Tennessee the last couple times they played them. That's what Duke did. Duke just overpowered Alabama in their small size. So I don't think Alabama's a national title contender. Can they get hot and beat almost anybody? Yes. But I don't know how consistently good this team is going to be. I think I have them at like a 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. I think they're going to do well enough in the SEC. And again, 2 years ago, they were a 4 seed and they made the Final Four because they got hot. This team has that same capability. Alabama, of course, scheduled really, really tough again in the non-conference. That's just what NATO does. They've had the toughest strength of schedule of any team the last 3 years. And Alabama plays at St. John's. That's going to be awesome. In Queens, New York, so that'll be fun. They play Purdue at home in Coleman Coliseum. They play Illinois and Chicago. It's basically a road game. They're in the Players era. We know they're playing Gonzaga and UNLV. We'll see who they play after that, depending on seeding and whatnot. They played Houston and Oregon last year. Houston game was epic. That was an awesome game to watch. They play Clemson at home in the SEC ACC Challenge, and they got Arizona in Birmingham, basically another home game. So Alabama could win 2 of these games, and it really doesn't matter for their schedule. If they can get 2 or 3 quad 1 quality wins in their non-con, they've done their job. That's basically what they've done the last couple of years, and they've been high seeds in the tournament. So if you're saying to yourself, why would we schedule tough out-of-conference opponents? We're just going to pick up losses. It's not going to help us. The number one counter-argument to that is looking at Alabama. I mean, Alabama 2 years ago did not have a good record. They were 21-12. They didn't do all that elite in the SEC. They lost in the first round of the SEC tournament, but they were a 4 seed because they got a couple big wins in the non-conference. So I love that Nate Oates does that. It makes a lot of sense, and it makes for more fun basketball, which is literally everything that we want in college basketball. So moving on from the top 5, just outside the top 5, at number 6, I've got Alabama's arch rivals, the Auburn Tigers. Auburn, of course, just lost their head coach, Bruce Pearl, to retirement. It was a legendary career for Bruce, Hall of Fame career, definitely in my opinion. Fantastic coach, great motivator. He built just a heck of a program there in Auburn. It went from being a program that no one really wanted to take over and that didn't really mean very much in the SEC to now one of the powerhouses in this conference. And the Jungle is one of the best arenas to attend for a home game, not only in the SEC but in the country. So Bruce Pearl has done a lot of great things for this Auburn basketball team. And now he passes the keys to the kingdom on to his son, Stephen Pearl. And Auburn was fantastic last year. They were the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. They won the SEC regular season title, the best conference ever. They won it. They lost in the semifinals of the tournament to Tennessee, but they still won the regular season title, which in my opinion is more impressive. And they made it all the way to the Final Four. I think it was their first Final Four in school history, so remarkable season for the Tigers. I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm right. And you fell short to Florida, but so did everybody else, so it's nothing to be ashamed of. And they were 4th in Ken Palm last year, top 10 in offensive and defensive efficiency. Janai Broome was fantastic. I think he should have won Player of the Year. They gave it to Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg was awesome. I don't really have any strong feelings about that. I just think Janai Broome was a better player, but that's neither here nor there. But last year's Auburn Tigers team felt like they were building to 2024. They had a bunch of seniors, a bunch of experienced guys who all came together, whether it was Chad Baker-Mazara, Janai Broome, Miles Kelly, Denver Jones, all of these guys that they brought together for this run. And it was an awesome run. It was an awesome season. They fell just short of a national title, and then everybody's left. Not only their coach is gone, but literally every single player from their team last year, other than Todd Pettiford, is gone. So they're replacing everything. And Todd Pettiford is awesome. He's super, super fun. I love Todd Pettiford. I think the coolest Todd Pettiford moment of this season was when Auburn came to Alabama, and they had a big lead, and then Alabama came all the way back and tied it, and right after they tied it, Todd Pettiford just walks down the court, shoots a deep 3 with 3 defenders right in front of him and just drains it right in front of the student section. I thought that was tough. So I like Todd Pettiford. I think he's a great player. I think if Auburn wants to contend in the SEC and contend nationally, he's going to have to be the best player in the SEC, especially because I don't really trust the rest of their guards. They got Kevin Overton from Texas Tech, who's good, but he's not all that great. He's good defensively. They've got a freshman, Abdul Bashir, at small forward. They got Caden Magwood, another freshman, at backup point guard. So, again, these freshmen could all pan out. This could work beautifully. But I don't know. It's tough to believe that that's going to happen. I think where you're going to find the most consistency, and I think where Auburn's going to be the most fun to watch outside of Todd Pettiford, is Keyshawn Hall and Keyshawn Murphy. Spelled differently, both Keyshawns, though. I think Keyshawn Hall has got a Y in his name. Keyshawn Murphy does not. So that's the difference between the two. Also, one is 3 inches taller. Keyshawn Hall came from UCF, averaged 18.8 per game with the Knights, Golden Knights, I guess, rather. And he was one of the most coveted transfer portal acquisitions of any team. And so good on Auburn for getting him, as well as Keyshawn Murphy, who's 6'10". He rebounds. He's big. He's physical. I think they're very different players, but I think they'll work really well together, and they'll create just fun basketball in the front court with Keyshawn Hall scoring and Keyshawn Murphy's defense. And under them, you got Sebastian Williams-Adams and Elijah Freeman. Elijah Freeman might be really, really good. He averaged 18.9 in the JUCO system, so he might be a stud when he comes in. Bruce Pearl was always so good at taking guys and developing them, whether it was Janai Broom from Morehead State, Miles Kelly from Georgia Tech, Chad Baker-Mazara for who knows where. I forget exactly where he came from. But, I mean, can Stephen Pearl have the same impact on these lower transfers, on these not super highly recruited freshmen to get the most out of them, to squeeze the juice from the lemon like Bruce Pearl did so well? We don't know yet, but this season I think we will definitely see. Let's see what else I've written down. Talent profile has definitely gone down. Also, their experience has gone down. Like I said, a lot of freshmen in the backcourt. These guys haven't ever played together. So it might be rough in the beginning of the year just because they don't have experience. They haven't played together. But they should get better. That means they should get better if their talent profile is better than I think. And their depth, they had crazy good depth last year, and they don't really have that this year. So that could be a little bit of an issue. They have an awesome schedule, though. They also scheduled up in the non-con. They play Houston and Birmingham. They got the Players Era. They could play Alabama 3 times this year in the regular season if they play them in the Players Era. They have to play Oregon and Michigan in the Players Era, though. That's a tough draw. Those 2 teams are pretty good, especially Michigan. Michigan's elite. They got to play NC State at home for the SEC ACC Challenge. I am really excited about NC State, so that game might be interesting. They got to play at Arizona, and then they got to play Purdue and Indianapolis. So they've got a really tough non-conference schedule before conference play ramps up. Again, Auburn last year in the non-conference, they had a really tough schedule, and they just butchered teams. They were undefeated other than the Duke game in the non-conference, which they were ranked number 1 in the country going into conference play, and they held that rank until the SEC tournament when I think it was Duke who took it over, and then Florida. I don't exactly remember. The AP poll kind of is nonsense these days. But Auburn, I think they have a floor of a 7 seed and the ceiling of a 4 seed. I'll say that for Auburn. So moving on from Auburn, I've got that's sort of my top team. I think that tier 1 through 6 are teams that I believe have a chance to win the SEC, and I think those are clearly the 6 best teams in the conference, with Kentucky, Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn. And if any other team wins the conference, I'll be shocked. If any other team contends for the national championship, I'll be shocked. But then again, Florida, we didn't think was going to be in the top tier of SEC teams last year, and they went on to win the whole thing. So we really don't know. But the next tier of things, the 4, I guess I should say the 5 teams that I have in my next tier of teams that I think are going to make the tournament, that I think are going to maybe give the other highly rated teams in the SEC a little bit of trouble. I got Oklahoma as the 7th best team. I think Xavier Brown, transfer from St. Joe's, is going to be awesome at the point guard position. I think they can shoot really well. They can defend really well. Darian Reed from Alabama was a huge, huge pickup they got. Let's look at the 3-point shooting on this Oklahoma team because it is nuts. Nigel Pack, transfer from Miami, was 40% from 3 last year. Dayton Forsyth, sophomore, was 44% from 3 last year. Jaden Jones, 38% last year from 3 from Long Beach State, so they can shoot really well. I think Xavier Brown's going to get them the ball. I think they're going to be really fun to watch. Darian Reed, again, great defender. He's 6'8", super talented guy out of high school. Didn't really pan out at Alabama because of injuries, I think was the main problem there, but still super talented. Tay Davis averaged 15.1 in the ACC with Notre Dame at power forward. Their center position is a little weak. I don't know how their rebounding is going to go. Muhammad Wag is sort of their starting 5. He hasn't really done very much. He was at Alabama. Now he's at Oklahoma. This is his second year with the Sooners. I don't know how I feel about him having the keys to the kingdom at the 5 position, but we'll see. He could prove me wrong. And then Kai Rogers is a true freshman they have in there, but 90-star recruit, not even top 100 in the country. So if he steps forward and is a really, really good player, that's sort of a shocker. But I do think Oklahoma's going to be fun. I think they're going to be tough to beat, especially on the road. And I think they're going to be fun. I think they're definitely going to make the tournament. At number 8 in the SEC, I got Mississippi State, the Bulldogs, Josh Hubbard. Oh my gosh, I love Josh Hubbard. He's the Mississippi State point guard. He's just so much fun. I love Josh. He's awesome. He averaged 18.9 last year. He's just like a little 5'11 dude who's so quick. He's a shot chucker, 100%. I mean, he puts up like more than 50% of their shots. But he is just so much fun to watch. When he's hot, you just kind of have to throw your hands up in the air and give him the win because he's just so much fun. I love watching Josh Hubbard. And it's not just Josh Hubbard. Achora Chora is also there from Samford, who can score really, really well. He averaged 16.1 points per game with Samford, 6.1 rebounds as well. So he can shoot, he can rebound. I think he's a great player. Great pickup for Mississippi State, in my opinion. So they're going to be fun to watch for sure. Texas A&M I have at number 9. Another team I think is going to make the tournament. But, of course, they got a new coach. I love Bucky McMillan, their new coach. I love Bucky Ball. I think it's so much fun. But basically what A&M's new coach, Bucky McMillan, wants to do is, A, play really, really fast, and not just on offense, not just get shots up as soon as you can on offense, but they just want to run, and don't stop running on defense. They want to press. They want to get after it. They want to play in your face the whole time and make you uncomfortable, try and force turnovers, and then score again as fast as they can. And I think it's so fun to watch. Samford basketball is awesome. They should have beaten Kansas 2 years ago in the the tournament, but they lost because of a bogus call. Gosh, I hated that. But I think that one of 2 things can happen with Texas A&M. Either Bucky McMillan gets his guys to buy into Bucky Ball, which is really, really get into top-tier physical shape so that they can be that active on defense and that fast on offense, or his team is just not going to buy into it and it's going to kind of be a dud because they got a lot of transfers. I mean, I think he did a great job going out with the resources Texas A&M has to get a lot of good players, but the question to me is, are they going to buy in? Pop Isaac's going to be the main guy over there with the Aggies at point guard. Great player with Creighton. Can shoot really, really well. Can score really, really well. He was injured pretty much all of last year, but great player. He was committed to be the starting point guard at Houston until they figured out they wanted to bring Milo Zuzan back, and then Pop Isaacs was like, nope, I don't want to compete with Milo Zuzan, so he went to Texas A&M. And I mean, he's 6'5", he can defend, so he works with what Bucky Ball wants to do, but whether he buys in or not, we'll see. Whether he can stay healthy or not, we'll see. Jakari Lane's going to be the backup point guard. I really like Jakari Lane, too. He can shoot really, really well, but he's transferring from Northern Alabama, so going from Northern Alabama to the SEC is a big transfer. Marcus Hill, 6'3", from NC State, should be really, really fun to watch. Rylan Griffin can shoot the heck out of the ball when he gets hot, so they've got the right guys in the backcourt to make this work. It's just, will they buy in? It's really the big question. Mackenzie Mbako is really, really fun from Indiana. Super high recruit. He could score a lot if they, again, get him to buy in. Super athletic guy, 6'9". He'll play the 4. Federico is their center. I think he works so well with what Bucky McMillan wants to try and do. Also, just an awesome name. Elite name. Federico? Are you kidding me? I mean, if my last name was Federico, I might as well have a son and name him Federico, because that's just fun. Zach Clemens, they also got from Kansas. Didn't really work out with Bill Self. We'll see if he can work out with Bucky. I love Bucky McMillan. But he's literally, never lived outside the state of Alabama. Is he going to be able to go into Texas A&M to College Station and get his players to buy in? If he does, it'll be awesome. But I'm just not sure. But I do have A&M making the tournament. I think, again, they're a team that can get hot and compete with a lot of really high-level teams because of how they play. Rounding out the top 10 of the SEC, at number 10, I have Missouri. I think the Missouri Tigers, they were great last year. And I love their coach, Dennis Gates. I think he's a really, really cool story. First year in the SEC was 2 years ago, and they literally didn't win a game in conference play. They lost every single SEC game. And then last year, they were like at the bottom of the conference preseason. Nobody thought they were going to be anything. And they went out and played such good basketball down the stretch of the season. They beat Alabama. Who else did they beat? I think they beat Florida. Alabama. They beat Kansas. They were a great basketball team. Mark Mitchell was sort of maybe the leader in that, and they have him back. And Dennis Gates went from not winning a game in the SEC to literally being a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. They lost to Drake. It's Ben McCollum. He's a genius. What are you going to do? But I think he's a legend. I really like his coaching style. And again, you return Mark Mitchell. Great shooter, super high recruit, averaged 13.9 last year with this team. He's going to be the center of your team. I love that. I really like Sebastian Mack and Anthony Robinson at the guard positions. I think that they could pop. Anthony Robinson's a great shooter. Sebastian Mack can score from the wing really well and defend really, really well. I question the front court a little bit. You got height. You got 6'11" Javon Porter, 7' Sean Phillips. But these are guys that just are not really very experienced at high-level basketball. Javon Porter's coming from Loyola Marymount, and Sean Phillips is coming from Arizona State, that's in the Big 12, but he was a backup. So I don't know. I don't know how experienced they are in the front court, that they might really struggle there. And then rounding out the last team I think that's going to make the tournament, I think they're going to be really on the fringe. I got three teams I think are going to be on the fringe. I think one of these three is going to make the tournament. That's Texas, Ole Miss, and LSU. Texas, of course, bringing in Sean Miller from Xavier, new head coach. They got a lot of talent, but are they going to get it to mesh? Are they going to get it to gel together? Because with new coach Sean Miller, you're bringing in a lot of guys from a lot of different spots around the country. Of course, you return Jordan Pope. Jordan Pope's great, senior guard. He played alongside Trey Johnson last year, knows what to do with this team, knows what to do with the football, I'm thinking of college football, knows what to do with the basketball. The Simeon Wilcher could be really, really good. Dalen Swain transfers from Xavier. He could be a stud. We just don't really know yet. I don't know. I have my doubts on this team. Miller's a good coach, but I have my doubts. Ole Miss, I really like Chris Beard. I think I might be a little too low on Ole Miss. You get Malik Dia back. He could really, really be impactful. Corin Johnson from Washington was a great player. Keza Giffa, I think is how you say his name, from High Point. High Point, one of the best stories in the mid-majors last year. Averaged 14.6 for High Point. Could be really good. AJ Storr, Chris Beard could get the most out of him. He's a really talented guy, just didn't really work at Kansas. So Chris Beard could completely prove me wrong. Ole Miss made the Sweet 16 last year. I have them right on the fringe of making the tournament. We'll see what happens. I think I'm a little low on them, to be honest. And then LSU, I'm higher on LSU than a lot of people because I think Dean Thomas is a stud. Transferred from UNLV, pretty good recruit out of high school. And by pretty good, I mean like great recruit out of high school. And now he's at LSU. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to lead them to some SEC wins. I think they're going to be better than they were last year in a season where they need to win or else they'll fire their coach. We know what they like to do over there at LSU. And then that's no shot at LSU. LSU's a great place. I love LSU. They just they might fire their basketball coach if they don't see results this year because it's been a while. And then the bottom three teams in the SEC, teams that I don't really think have a lot of chance to make much noise: Georgia, Vanderbilt, and South Carolina. They're not very talented. If either of these three teams surprised me, it would probably be Vanderbilt, just because I think they're well coached. And Georgia made the tournament last year as a 9 seed and proceeded to just get absolutely boat raced by Gonzaga. I mean, that game was not even close. Gonzaga was up like 30-5 at one point in that game. So, can't get much worse than that for Georgia. Although I don't think they're going to make the tournament, so I guess that is worse. But just to finish it up, just to sort of go back and read this off, from top to bottom, from 1 to 16, I've got Kentucky as the best team in the SEC. They're my preseason favorites to win the conference. Then I got Florida at number 2, Arkansas at number 3, Tennessee at number 4. I've got Alabama at number 5, Auburn at number 6, Oklahoma at 7, Mississippi State at 8, A&M at 9, Missouri at 10, Texas at 11, Ole Miss at 12, LSU at 13. Georgia at 14, Vanderbilt at 15, and South Carolina at 16. This conference, I think, might take a little bit of a step back this year compared to last year. That's just because they were the best conference ever last year, so obviously you're going to take a step back. They got 14 teams in the tournament last year. I think they're going to get 11 this year. That's where I draw the line for the SEC. But there's going to be so many fun games. I mean, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch Alabama A&M be like 120 to 125. I can't wait to watch John Calipari return, maybe Kentucky is going to return the favor to Arkansas this year after losing to them last year. Who knows? Florida, Tennessee is going to be electric. It always is electric. I love college basketball so much. This, even though it's going to take a step back, should be the best conference in the league again this year. I can't wait. It's starting up soon, and if you watch this whole video, that means you probably can't wait for college basketball either. And it's just getting closer and closer and closer. I can feel it in the air, and I can feel it in my body. I just cannot wait for it to start because it's just going to be so much fun. So thanks so much for watching. If you leave this video with one thing on your mind, is that God loves you. Jesus died for you. He died for us, but if there was no one else on this planet other than you, he would have died just for you. That's how much he loves you. And if you even think about Jesus, if you even think about God, if you even ponder his existence and say, wow, God, you brought me this pumpkin, then that makes him happy. And the closer we grow to God, the more love that we have in our lives. So if you get anything from this podcast, it's to just think about God and pray just a little bit more often than you normally do. And it'll 100% totally be worth it, I promise. And with that, we are definitely going to continue our scheduled college football program. If you love watching our, oh man, I got something in my throat, I'm sorry. If you love watching instant reaction videos, if you love watching Seller Shenanigans, if you love watching our game previews, we're still going to get those out for college football. We're just also going to work in some college basketball stuff. So it's just more for y'all. And it's more for me because I get to talk about sports more. So I can't wait. I know y'all can't wait. And God bless, folks. Thanks for watching. And I'll see y'all later.